Okay, we are live now. Hopefully my mic is coming through. Hopefully my camera is kind of coming through. Hopefully this is a very temperamental machine here. Just going to wait until everyone starts to come in. You're a little bit early. Well, a little early, like a few seconds early. Now it's not. Now it says 7 on my computer. So we're here. Yeah, we're here. Live tonight. There are 3 of you in here. How y'all doing? I have a few things I want to talk about before we get into the speculation map and the construction that I wanted to talk about, both in Orlando a little bit, but also Hollywood. So yeah. Wait until a few more people get in here. Maybe how y'all doing in the chat? Can y'all see me? I mean, so the first thing I really wanted to talk about was the Wi-Fi. Last stream, it was really bad from watching back. It was terrible last stream, and I'm sorry if it's the same. I'm going to try not to have my face on here very long. I really want to put the map and then whatever else we talk about, and not have a lot of this sort of glitchy, grainy, whatever. There was a comment, I know one of y'all commented about Wi-Fi extender. I've tried Wi-Fi extenders, and I have not been able to find one that works. Stream is lagging. Okay. I apologize. My internet is terrible up here, and I've really tried to do everything I could to set it up right. So I apologize for that. I've tried Wi-Fi extenders, and they have not worked for some reason. I don't know if I just got bad ones or whatever. So again, I'm not going to try to have my face on here very long, but yeah, I just wanted to address that because I know that it's been bugging me really bad. It's just really it's just really bad up here. And it's a mess. Yeah, as long as if y'all can hear me, that's pitch perfect. I will go in the corner and you guys can look at something a lot cooler that will not glitch and lag. So just wanted to address that first before we get into anything. And also where I've been, because it's been 3 weeks since I put a video out. I went live a couple weeks ago, or last week, talking about what's coming to Universal. Not really HHN stuff, so I know a lot of y'all didn't really see it. Not a big deal, but I am back-ish. For those who don't know or haven't been looking through the community tabs, I mentioned that I am very close to graduating college. So it is, it's been taking up a lot of my time. And I've also been kind of at a weird cross points with this channel, what I want to do with it, how I want to do things. Hence why I'm trying this out, not really doing this via live stream versus a video. Yeah, just seeing what the sort of temperature is. And plus, for me, speculation is best when it's shared with other people. That's the fun of it. And I feel like sometimes when I do a video, I only can say what I'm saying and then be like, what do y'all think in the comments? And then I don't really get that interaction. So I like doing live streams. And a video was just, they dropped that late, y'all. They dropped it late last night. And I was just like, I had things going on, today. I didn't really have the whole time to put out a video right away. Probably will still be one. I did record a little something for it. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with it. So that's why I really wanted to bring everyone to the stream so we could talk about the speculation map. Yeah, just sort of keep an eye out on the channel. It's going to be kind of interesting for the next few weeks, a month, once I sort of get everything settled with my real life stuff. As we get deeper into HHN sort of construction and Universal, all the summer stuff is supposed to be announced tomorrow. So there will be a video on that. But yeah, I don't know. Videos are just, I'm being real with y'all. Y'all are the ones who are here all the time, and I know Chemo Dog and Northern GG and Kazi Wolf, you guys are always in my comments, so you all know. I just want to put out the best thing I can put out, and not just putting out whatever. But anyway, let's hop into the subject of today, the speculation map, which I was asleep when they uploaded. Yeah, I was like, I was about to go to bed, and then I saw they uploaded, and I was like, oh man, they're doing this again. Last year they did this too, where they uploaded it at like 9 o'clock at night. And I remember doing that video. I was like up until like 4 a.m. the next morning, trying to just record and edit and just do it as quick as possible. So them late night releases, y'all, no joke. But anyway, let's hop over to the speculation map. So, how's everybody doing? Let me know in the chat. Okay, overall thoughts. Let me pop it on the screen. Pop the Orlando one. We'll talk about both. But let's pop it on the screen. And here we go. The speculation map for Volume 2 for Halloween Horror Nights this year. Halloween Horror Nights 33, Halloween Horror Nights 2024 in the case of Hollywood. So Cross Gorilla has the first sort of comment on this. So a lot of stuff has changed, but I think V1 might be the most likely one that Universal may do. That's interesting. I feel like as we get more and more into the season, talking about what we could actually see I feel like we get more and more precise. And there are some things here that have been very heavy rumors that are obviously still on this map from V1. I would say half of this is carried over in one way or the other. And we'll talk about that as we get into specifics. But honestly, Hollywood, here's a Hollywood ambassador. Hollywood has a lot of changes, and that's really what I want to talk about too later on, because Hollywood, I think is more interesting to talk about right now. While I'm, of course, a lover of Orlando, I grew up going to Orlando and things like that. Or not grew up, I didn't grow up going to Halloween Horror Nights, but I live in Orlando. I'm in this area. That's my event. But Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood has some interesting things this year. So, let's pop. So we have what's going on Eurovision. Also, what's going on Jazzy Wolf, No Ordinary GG. How y'all doing? I wanted to say hi earlier. I wanted to get all that stuff off my chest before we got into the speculation map. Anyway, HHN Addiction. I feel like the house ideas are good by themselves, but it doesn't really feel like these are really disjointed and lack of overall theme or icon tie-ins. Now, this is interesting here. I think this is going to be a trend, and I've said this before. If you've been in my past streams, if you've watched the past videos, I think this year is going to be smaller than last year. I don't think we're going to get the same big, really tie-in that we did last year, just because we had it so big last year. And that's kind of how I feel like these things move. Like, they'll have a big year, and then they'll have a slowdown. Or they'll have a big couple years, and then they'll have and usually it's after anniversary years, right? Like 2010, huge year, big event, big icons. We have, all this tribute to the past. And then we go a little smaller. And then in 21, big icon year. And then 22, 23, 24, we're kind of like the weird years. I think we're in one of those weird years until we get to 25. I think this year and next year maybe could be quite interesting, to say the least. So I'm kind of with you. I like these ideas. I'm curious to see, maybe they will have some sort of icon. I mean, last year that wasn't really indicated through speculation maps, and we ended up getting Dr. Oddfellow. So if you really want to call that an icon tie-in, he was technically an icon. I mean, he is an icon. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. He is an icon. But the way they did it could have been, I think, a little tighter. But nonetheless, I think it is a little too early to say quite yet whether that's the case, but I do like these ideas. Okay, got a few comments here. Thank you for everyone congratulating in the chat. Big thanks to y'all. Really, really appreciate that. I think it's neat that they use different but related symbols. That's something we'll talk about specifically when it comes to Soundstage 23A. I love what they're doing with that. I hope that materializes, because I think that's a really cool idea. What's up, Backlog Builder? Hollywood is more open field. Doing house constructions make you hype to see what they cook. We're going to get to that, Chemo Dog. We're going to talk about HHN Hollywood construction, because it's getting quite spicy. I think Orlando is good and all, but according to many, they prefer Hollywood Horror Nights. Would agree is sort of near local. They get right in your face and have Terror Tram. Now, this is quite interesting. I know a lot of people have their own strong opinions. Even people like creator friends of mine that have been going to Halloween Horror Nights and things like that. They go to Hollywood Horror Nights Orlando, might say the Hollywood is better. I mean, last year that was the general consensus, I think, overall. from what I saw different creators saying, almost Horror Nights Orlando was it. Yeah, I mean, I definitely see this. I've never been. I can't attest to this. Those who have been to both can definitely shoot off their opinions in the comments. But I mean, I'm not surprised. It looks like a great event. It looks like a lot of fun. Things seem disjointed lately. Yeah, I think that they are doing, I don't know. I think they're really trying to lean on those IPs, right? But this year, based on what we're seeing, even with this map, I'm curious on how much their IPs are really going to sell it this year. I think this is going to be an original year if we have ever seen one, and definitely something maybe along the lines of 31. I think we're going to get a lot of similarities with this in 31, where that year was very original. Same kind of split. Here we have 4 IP, 6 originals. That year was 4 IP, 6 originals. Couple big ones, a couple sort of, a medium tier IPs, and then a bunch of originals, and some of the best originals. I mean, you asked a lot of people, they say some of the best originals out there in recent years. Definitely. Also, y'all are blowing it up. Eurovision, I know you have a couple things about to go to business since it's the middle of the night in Norway. Well, thank you for hopping on the stream from Norway. That's awesome. But I want to stop and say hi before I watch the replay tomorrow. Thank you. Yeah, for any of those who are missing it, the replay will be on the channel, and I'm going to put timestamps in the description for those who just want to skip certain parts. Say, hey, I want to hear you talk about Ghostbusters, or I want to hear you talk about whatever this lantern is. You guys can skip around, because I know I don't have a video out as, like, usually I would put a video out before, then do the live stream. Testing this out because I don't know. I'm still like back and forth what I'm going to do with the video, if I have a video, just because of everything that's gone on recently. What's going on, Mr. Halloween? How you doing? What do you think about speculation map? Let me know. New sprung houses. That's really interesting. I think those are the biggest changes we've seen with those sprung houses for sure. Very hopeful, excited for Bray Wyatt. RSVPs for Bray Wyatt. I know this has been one that a lot of people have talked about. I don't think that's what this is, the lantern, but I know a lot of people want it. And maybe if there's enough demand, and if obviously Bray Wyatt's family and those involved want to do something like this, I know a lot of people would love it. I'm not a huge fan of Bray Wyatt. I'm familiar enough with his sort of characters, personas, the story, but I know a lot of people have been talking about Bray Wyatt on Twitter. I've noticed that a lot in the replies for this. So don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's what this is, but maybe in the future at some point. They have done wrestling houses before, so more in Hollywood though. I mean, the Weeknd came to Halloween Horror Nights, so we never know. I'm making predictions for HHN 30. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Responding. I'm just looking through chat in order. This year's icon is Dr. Oddfellow's crazy sister. Madame Bazile. I mean, I know she's not his sister, but I mean, like, Madame Bazile is an icon. Not a terrible idea. Maybe onto something. I don't like competition. I enjoy both of them for what they are. Yeah, that's me too. I think it's funny when they sort of make it infighting because it's the same company. Same IPs, same, like, I mean, it's Universal Studios. So it's not like, I feel like it's even less than Disney and Universal. And I don't like to do the competition between Disney and Universal either. That's not really my thing. But I feel like it's even less so because it's literally the same company. I know there's this HHN Orlando is an event. Hollywood is a community, same as Disneyland and Disney World. I think this is an interesting comparison. A lot of people don't, I've never heard this before, so I think this is really a curious observation, and I do kind of feel that. I feel like Hollywood's Horror Nights is a very different event. Even though it's the same event, there are a lot of differences, and I think it's fun to look at that. Also, thank you, Quentin, for all of the dropping in. Washington, D.C. Shout out to Washington, D.C. I love seeing when y'all, like, let me know where you're watching from. I think that's cool. I've heard Ireland. I've heard Norway. We had earlier, Washington, D.C. That's awesome. I know some of y'all in California. Are the Hollywood tickets on sale? Not on sale yet. I think we will get something along the lines of tickets and dates when we get our first big house announcement for Hollywood. I don't, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like that would make the most sense, Hollywood folks. Here we go. The only good thing about Orlando was Dueling Dragons, Darker Steel, and Oddfellow. I mean, those are my top 3 houses of last year. I wouldn't say they're the only good thing. I think there were a few other really great houses. I really loved Exorcist and Monsters last year. Those are my top 5. But yeah, I mean, these houses were great. So I think this kind of speaks to the idea of this year being an original year, an original, all around. Ghostbusters. No real big IPs. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have any break down the door IPs for this year. It's gonna be much more about the originals. I think this is just definitely gonna be the slow build up before we get to 35, which I think 35 will be our next knock down the doors year for Horror Nights, in my opinion. Bigger you go, the less special it seems. More tourists come down to celebrate the event, but HHN Hollywood focus on the locals. I think so, but I think Orlando is also going to start turning towards the locals as well. I mean, they really love having those, like at this point, I feel like they are looking to, I mean, right, frequent fair passes are becoming such a big deal. And they are trying to, I feel like, cater to them in certain aspects. And like, obviously, it's kind of almost like the pass holder thing. Like, yeah, they're not like necessarily treating you maybe as intimately as Hollywood, but I feel like frequent fair pass holders do still get a decent amount. I mean, the idea of having a multi-night pass for this one, they could easily do what Disney does and make it a one-time offer. That speaks to something. That's just me, though. But I do definitely think it is definitely a tighter knit community of Hollywood folks out there, especially the content creators. Lantern is Insidious. Popcorn in the Lantern. Okay. Alan Wake. Okay, we have a lot of things talking about the Lantern. Let's go. So yeah, Bray Wyatt. Yeah, I definitely think it could be cool. I would like to learn more about him, honestly, and his sort of and sort of the backstory and the different characters and the personas and just the theming of it, because I think it's really cool. But okay, let's just hop into the map. Let's hop into the map and let's just start. Let's start. Here we go. I have to get to the right window. Let's start with Soundstage 23A and start around the top, or start from the bottom, I guess I should say. The first Soundstage 23A, which is the same Latin American symbol. We talked about Latin American monsters before, but the key difference here is that we are seeing a jungle symbol in the middle. Trees, which I'm guessing is jungle, and that looks about where the Amazon is. Now, a lot of people want it to be Creature. I don't think it's going to be Creature. I don't think Creatures is coming this year. When will the Creature come to the event? I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break it to you, but I don't think it's happening this year. Just because of what we're seeing with the next house, which we'll get to in a second. I know there's already some comments about that. But talking about this, I think we are going to be seeing a Latin American monsters house of Monstros, maybe like their take on that with the Amazon rainforest as a setting. I'm all down for this. I loved Jungle of Doom. I thought that was a great, house for Jungle of Doom. Maybe it could be a house for Jungle of Doom, or maybe they take some of the props from Jungle of Doom and bring it to life that way. I've said since we saw that scare zone, I'm like, imagine this in a house with this scale. Give us like a Deadman's Pier level set or Blood Moon level sets with the jungle theme. I'd be all over that. I think it would just be it could be so intimate. It could be really scary, really dark. So much great potential here with this. And it looks like whatever this is, Hollywood could be getting the same original. So let me pop over to Hollywood because we see the same symbol in the Parisian Courtyard. Which is something that really excites me because it leans into the possibility that we not only could be seeing Orlando's take on the Latin American monster deal, but we could also be seeing a dual split original, which I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of Halloween Horror Nights. Now, they've had dual split IPs. Of course, it's happened before. And even two variations on the same IP like that are different. We saw that with Legends Collide. Hollywood had a different version. We had a different version than that. So maybe we have something. They do a little something. We do a little something. There's maybe an interconnected story there. I'm not sure. We did see this flower symbol the last time on the last speculation map. A lot of people were speculating this could be a Latin American original. And I think we could also be getting that. Maybe they are connected, which I really love that idea. Love that idea so much. I really hope that is something, even doesn't matter really what it is. I just like that idea. The idea of them sharing. It goes back to that idea of like Hollywood and Orlando celebrating their similarities and their differences. Lost City in the Amazon full of creatures and cannibals trying to kill you. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't think they go with the cannibal route because of the previous Jungle of Doom doing that, and it didn't really work because it didn't really age well. That's why I think they made all the Jungle of Doom characters like animals or like plants. I wouldn't be mad at like a plant or like I know there's a thing here about Chupacabra, like maybe another Chupacabra house. I love the Chupacabra house. I think that is the most underrated. I think it is the most underrated house in the past handful of years, like the past 5 years easily. I think the most overlooked house. It's one that never really gets that, and Puppet Theater. I think those two are the ones in the past 5 years or so that are the most overlooked because I feel like they don't really ever get the love that they deserve. So I would love to see another Chupacabra house. Sure, give it to me. But I would also like to see something different. I mean, if they wanted to do that. And I like this. I know that, Kimmy Dog, you're talking about Monstros. I don't know if they're going to do retread of Monstros with the same characters. Because I kind of like how they did it all new characters. Like, yeah, we heard La Lechuza for speculation last year, but then they pulled out the El Sabon and the Tlahuelpuchi. Damn it, I can't say the word. I'm sorry, I'm not a great pronouncing. But this character right here, the bird, you know, in the beginning. But yeah, like I think those characters pulling those kind of out of nowhere, and making them this really big, you know, like making these really big known characters, I guess after. I think this could be really cool. I don't think we'll see Chupacabra. Wow, I am so bad at pronouncing Chupacabra, but I think we will see the Chupacabra pulley in this house as well as the lion style scare. Do you mean the lion scare from Oddfellow? Because I think that would be great if they had like a creature in the forest and then it pops out like a puppet. That would be really cool. If that's what you mean, or I guess that, or like the lion scare from Nightingales. Yes, so the lion scare from Oddfellow. Nightingales kind of did the same thing too. So like that idea would be really great. I think that sounds like a great idea. Imagine if they pull some inspiration from last year into the next 2 years to hint at what the next anniversary could be. Maybe spreading out hints. Now, that's something we'll talk about as we go into the next set of houses, especially the tents, because I feel like those could be the clearest indication as maybe a continuation of the story. But yeah, I think that definitely, I think we could be seeing hints as spread out as to what we could be seeing in the future. Also, Ileana, I think I'm saying that right. Yeah, we just basically started talking about a little bit about speculation, like the idea of speculation, and then we're on 23A. I think we're going to move on to 23B or 22 soon. So we just kind of started talking about the map, so you didn't really miss much. Just talking about the idea of Latin American monsters in the rainforest. Cool, thank you. I'm glad I pronounced it wrong. I pronounced it right. I'm a mess today. There is a minor difference in the icon between Hollywood and Orlando. Hollywood has a flower and Orlando has trees. Look like they'll be different. Yeah, I think they are going to be different, but maybe in the same. Maybe there's like how Legends Collide was the same story, but it was, or the same characters, but a different story. For those who didn't see both events, Legends Collide in Orlando was like more of in the tombs, you know, kind of crawling with the mummies and all that. And then you have Legends Collide in Hollywood, which is like the museum once they get shipped across, or maybe this is beforehand. I'm not really sure on the timeline because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but still, like, they did two different settings with the same characters. They could be doing that here, maybe creating both sort of Latin American houses. The only reason I don't think it's going to be house focusing on Latin American monsters, Angelinos are familiar or semi-familiar with those creatures, but most tourists in Orlando don't know. Yeah, I think that's true. Although I think there's something to be said about what people know and how that translates into a haunted house and it translates into something people want to do. For example, this has been my big theory of surrounding the popularity of Yeti last year, because Yeti was insane every single night. The line was always so long, and I'm like, I like the Yetis. I do. It's fun. What are y'all seeing in this? And it's not just fans. It's tourists. It's GP. It's the public. And I think it's because it's like Yetis, like Bigfoot, like that's something you can visualize. You're like, okay, I'm going into a campsite. Gotta have these big monsters chase me around. I kind of know what's going on. Or on the other hand, something like Dueling Dragons. is like a little more abstract. It's like dragons and wizards and magic. How is that scary? You know, so I think that that's like knowing people who don't know anything about Horror Nights, that don't know anything about like the lore and everything, that are just coming to the event as outsiders. That stuff is what's interesting to people. So you could be very right with this, saying that Orlando tourists, but also I do think the Chupacabra kind of pulled back into that idea. But I think as an Angelino and Hispanic, I know these stories, but I guarantee most people down south won't know monsters like El Cucuy. No, I definitely think that is that's true. I think this is very valid. Although I think this could be a way of them maybe introducing people to it. You know what I'm saying? Like Chupacabra, that happened with Chupacabra before. A lot of people didn't know what that was. And they were like, what is like, what, like, and it's kind of like, it depends, like what it is depends on where you're from. So it's like, it's kind of hard to define. So like, because different sort of regions characterize that creature in a different way. And it's completely different from the way they did it at Horror Nights. So I think it could be interesting. Mayan Aztec monsters, I think maybe even going, I think this could be interesting too. Like I would really like the idea of like a Tomb of the Ancients kind of deal. I've always said that was a cool concept for this. And maybe with some monsters, like you go into the tomb, it's almost like Indiana Jones style. Like a very Indiana Jones feel of a house. Really do that again, because it's been a while since they did that. And I feel like that was another sort of overlooked house for that year. I love this comment. They do have a Yeti, it just doesn't work. they have a broken Yeti. Also, campy horror like Yeti has a massive following. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's something we'll talk about again as we talk deeper into the speculation map. It is like the kind of dark comedy house. But I think also too, like the degree of like, that's I think why Yeti I think was so beloved, because I think it did a good balance. Because there's a comment here. I feel like Chucky was the camp house. But I think Chucky was the more outwardly funny house, like just genuinely goofy house, right? But then I think Yeti was kind of it did it both, because Yeti scared me. Yeti scared me pretty good because there was very inventive scares in there. It is very clever with the scares, lots of mirrors, lots of misdirect, and these giant costumes, pulling a lot from what worked in 2019. But it is it's something that I think Yeti, I think Chucky was just more of the funny, like goofy, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or like like one of those kind of houses where it's really just kind of just goofy. Like there's a difference I think between the goofy and the dark comedy. Something like a Slaughter Sinema, something we'll talk about later. A Slaughter Sinema idea is like definitely like more of a dark comedy side than compared to like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is just straight up goofiness. They like, this is crazy. I mean, them biting the head off the dog. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think they said it was a dog on the Mess and the Horror Tour. They said it was a dog. In the trailer. And then they had the baby, the head that came out against the window. Like, it's ridiculous. It's dark. It's dark comedy, and I think that works a lot when it comes to these haunted houses, and it's always great to have one of those. So I'm curious which one that will be this year. Okay, do you think? I think we moved the dog after week 1. I remember them showing like. So what it was, I think, was because I did my tour very, very late into the season, and they had I don't remember if they had a dog, because I only did this once the first weekend, and the first weekend I only did the house once, so I don't really remember, but I do remember on the Unmasked and the Horror Tour, because they gave us the whole backstory behind Fifi the dog, and I was very lucky with this tour because I did a very late tour. Maybe a pointer if you're looking. It doesn't happen all the time, but you might get lucky. They started doing tests, audio tests and projection tests while we were doing the tour. And it was wild because in the middle of the tour, for those who went to the house, I'm going to describe where I was. I was in the middle, coming out of the visitor center. So right when you go in the house, you go into the visitor center and you turn right, blasting audio, all the sound effects, all the music just blasting. And it was like because they were getting ready to set up. Because I did this house. I mean, we did this house just before Stay and Scream, so the actors were starting to get ready, starting to go into the house and get prepared. And obviously, I didn't film any of it because you're not supposed to film anything. No videos allowed in Unmasking Horror. But they did allow us to take photos of the trailer, and they had the projection on the trailer, and you can see it in my video. I had shots of it, and it was. I mean, it was in fair usage, right? It wasn't like I was taking pictures against their will. And you could see the Yeti pop off the head of the dog. And I know because we saw it a bunch of times looping. So I don't know if they had the dog elsewhere in the house, but they had the projection up until this was like one of the final weeks of the event. Anyway, long tangent. Considering Yeti won House of the Year, does that set a precedent for more camp? I think this year is going to be very campy. I think this year is going to be very campy, very silly, with some of these here. And I think that's just the direction of the event in general. Honestly, I think that it's going to be something we're going to see a lot of. And it's funny enough because Soundstage 24B is where Yeti was. So maybe keeping that camp alive. But yeah, let's hop to 22. Let's move over to 22 because I don't want to spend all day. But we can come back to this question because I do think this is going to come into factor when we talk about more of the houses. So let's talk about 22 and how we don't have a Dracula or a vampire symbol anymore. I know there's a comment back here about the idea of a all-female universal. Yes, all Case of Quackers. I don't know if you commented this, but the idea of an all-female classic monsters house. Essentially like the Silver Screen Queen Scare Zone, I think, from Hollywood. Maybe. That's where my head goes, because obviously we have the bride's hair and we have this symbol, which is obviously indicative of the female sex. So the idea of a female Universal Monsters houses, I think that would be awesome. I think there's so many characters that we never really get to see. Dracula's daughter, especially with the success of Abigail. I know I was someone who was pitching Abigail to come to the event, but let's get the original Dracula's daughter in there. Why not? Let's get Dracula's brides. Let's get into let's get some of the sort of mummy offshoots. Yeah, the Scare Zone that was connected to Bride of Frankenstein Lives. I think this could be really cool. Let's do a full classic monster house. Although this could be maybe a tease for Victoria Frankenstein, who is the sort of is going to be the main figure of Epic Universe Dark Universe Park. So maybe this has a time. Maybe she's one of the characters we see. We get a little tease before we get her in the Dark Universe area. Those are my speculations, but I know also Ileana's talking about maybe Lisa Frankenstein, which would also be great. That movie was great. I talked about that in a previous stream that I really love that film. And I think it could be really fun for Halloween Horror Nights. Catherine Newton, just bring every Catherine Newton movie to Halloween Horror Nights. We have Freaky, we already got. Let's do this one. Let's do Abigail. Let's just do a Catherine Newton house. Catherine Newton is the Scream Queen, I think, of the next generation. But I mean, I think that could be something interesting. I don't know if that would happen, but I mean, I'm all for that. I'm all for this idea. I just like this idea in general. I don't really want to retread. So I know there is the idea of this being like, oh, is this going to be Bride of Frankenstein Lives again? I don't think it is going to be. I think it's going to be something different. I think it's going to be something different, something new. But let's see what y'all think. I was really hoping for Bride of Frankenstein Lives, Dracula's Revenge, or Dracula Seeks Revenge for what happened in HHN 30. I don't see that being out of the question, considering we had Dracula before. Maybe this is Dracula meets Bride of Frankenstein. Maybe that is the case. Maybe it's a continuation. Bride 2 idea. That could be really cool. Because the Bride 1 story was so great. So yeah, I think that could be awesome. I don't think that'll happen this year. I feel like Victoria come next year. Yeah, so okay, I see what you're saying here, Backlog Builder. I think maybe I feel like it could be a way to maybe tease, like maybe not have her story, but maybe have her appear. I don't know. I was just thinking maybe it could be. I feel like you definitely could toe the line of like spoiling it or a little more, you kind of toe the line. Maybe you do something where she's in a scene and you're like, oh my god, who's this character? Do like almost like a Pumpkin Lord situation where you have one character. I mean, granted, he was like the main character of that house. I'm thinking like the Voodoo Queen or something like that, like another like past character that kind of appears in a small context, whether that's in this house, and then you're like, ooh, who's that? That's someone who I want to follow their story. And then they say, boom, new theme park, come and see her in the new ride. Yeah, I think this is what I'm talking about. Like maybe this can be a tease. I don't know if that would be something that would really work. Again, they're also doing this in Hollywood. I know there's a comment about dual coast announcements. This is coming to Hollywood as well, so I don't know if they would necessarily go for this because it's a character. Maybe it doesn't have to involve Victoria Frankenstein like at all. Because if you do like a Silver Scream Queen's house, right? Or like a few different female characters, you can cut. And I mean, when they did Universal Monsters originally, they had the original or the Invisible Man in Hollywood's version in the first version, and then we didn't get that, and then they ended up putting a creature in our version that they didn't get. So you see that they do kind of pick and choose like maybe who appears in what. I mean, Renfield appeared in Legends Collide. We didn't get that here. Red Death Phantom appeared in Hollywood. I meant in Hollywood's Legends Collide. So I don't know. Let's see. I feel like this is definitely one that like I don't know. I feel like y'all are very interested in this. I'm very interested in this one. Any chance for a Clown Cafe food truck? Maybe. I don't know. I'm honestly with food, it's so weird to sort of speculate on that. Maybe. That's what I'm going to say about that. Maybe. When we get a little closer, maybe we'll look at that a little deeper. HHN Addiction has a comment here that I do want to talk about. At some point, they're going to make a move to the young monsters to push out the older generation who doesn't connect, or push out to the younger generation, sorry, that doesn't connect with the older monsters. I think that's true, although I think there's a bit of truth in that, but I do think that the original characters sell. I think they sell really well, considering that the Universal Monsters houses have become some of the most popular, not just with fans, but also with general public. It's one of the easiest things also to describe. We talk about familiarity. If you say there's a Frankenstein's house or a mummy-themed house or a Dracula house, most people can imagine what that looks like. If you say we're going to do a spin-off of Invisible Man, like an Invisible Woman house, or a I don't really know who else would be considered in the Young Monsters camp. I guess Victoria Frankenstein, right? Oh, Victoria Frankenstein. I don't know how well people will be able to be like, oh, like that's cool. Even though I think it's a cool idea. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I'm someone who I love all the original. I love when they do original takes on the monsters. And I love what they're doing with, Epic Universe and stuff. So maybe once it opens, when people are already familiar with it, maybe you do something like that. But I think they're going to, at least for this round, use the classics to maybe prop up some other characters like Universal Monsters Unmasked. I think is a great example of this, using a couple of those big characters to prop up smaller or like less popular characters. I don't know if that makes any sense. Because that was a very like Phantom's house with all the other guys there. But that's just me. Yeah, so okay. I think this is definitely a comment in regards to the Clown Cafe. I think Twisted Metal is one that I'm very curious about. Maybe I think it's probably more of a licensing thing, or maybe it's just I don't know, because I like the idea of them bringing that to the event, and I know the series did get a little bit of attention, but I don't know if it's enough to where they would want to gamble, and I know they would have to probably work with Sony again, and PlayStation, and they did it with Last of Us, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, I think attaching this to Peacock would be cool. Like if they did like put some Twisted Metal stuff in the Peacock bar, or just involve that in some other Peacock. Like I would love to see like a Peacock Scare Zone. I know it would be totally just marketing, totally just advertisement, but I mean, that would be interesting. Things of Halloween in general, not HHN. Kids are bound to know who the classics are. Yeah, I think that those things are just so like everyone knows who Frankenstein is. Frankenstein's monster. Everybody knows who Dracula is, and these characters like are so easy to even like Phantom of the Opera. Like if you say Phantom of the Opera has a haunted house, some people can be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like I know who Phantom of the Opera, whether it's from the musical or the many movies they've made over the years. No Peacock scares on. Yeah, no, I understand. I think this is definitely like that would definitely be a corporate decision. But I would like for a place to go for all these characters that maybe will never have a house or never have a zone, but are in the bubble and that aren't Blumhouse, because I know Blumhouse does their own thing. I know Blumhouse Zone has been talked about. Hordes. I would love to see a huge Hordes of Blumhouse house with everybody, Purge, Sinister, Insidious. But yeah, now like bringing all these characters together. But yeah, it definitely reeks of corporate synergy a little bit when they do that. Although I think Crypt TV also was suffered from COVID a lot. Praying for you for Fallout rep HHN, please. Oh my god, I would love for Fallout to come to HHN so bad. like y'all don't know. If y'all haven't been following me on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere else other than YouTube, I've been on a huge Fallout kick since the show came out. I love the Fallout series so much. Bring Chucky back. Bring it back. Oh, I'd be all about it. I'd be all about Chucky coming back in like this, like in this sense. I love Chucky. I've said it before. I love Chucky, like the character. I haven't caught up on this show, so don't put any spoilers for the season, the last couple episodes. I haven't watched them yet. Do more rotational characters with the bar, like you do with David S. Pumpkin and the Purge. Yeah, I think you just need more characters. I think that was a big thing. I said that last year. I was like, where are all the people at? I get David S. Pumpkins is popular. I get but let's also have a few characters roaming around. Like, let's not just have one scare, because it would either be the Purge Girl or David S. Pumpkins only. Really only. They wouldn't do more with that. So I don't know. I think that they should do more with this. I think they should make more effort with this aspect of Peacock. Maybe last year was a test and they're going to do more with it this year, but did they ever have a House for Jeepers Creepers? For many reasons, they will never do a House for Jeepers Creepers. For those who know, you know. For those who don't, look it up at your own discretion. But I don't think they're ever going to have a House for Jeepers Creepers. Okay, so let's knock out a couple more of these, because I know we've already been going for 40 minutes and we're barely touched on the map. Let's talk about Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters we've talked about before. Quiet Place we've also talked about before. Not going to really dive into those because I've definitely talked about that extended. A lot of people have their own opinions on them. You can drop them in the chat. And then we have the Candy here talking about maybe what do you Sweet's Revenge. I don't even know why I said that. I don't know why I had to hesitate on this. Sweet's Revenge or like Candy Factory, Major Sweets, something of that nature. So we've already talked about these. Unknown Original, it's kind of hard to talk about because it's, unknown. Do I think it's going to be a Quiet Place or Silent Hill? All signs are pointing to a Quiet Place, which I'm very, very curious. I'm very, very curious about this. Curious in a good way, curious in a bad way. Well, we'll have to see. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Also sad to see the Castle show is gone. Yeah, I was very curious about the Castle show, but I guess they're only doing one show this year. So I'm honestly happy there's no show in Animal Actors. I said it before. I've said it on Chris's live streams. I've said it on my streams. I think that will be chaos. I think that would be the scariest part of the event, would be when that show would let out into that scare zone. Especially when it comes to this mess back here with the tents. So let's talk about the tents. But first, let's update on those tents because, well, folks, we have tents. They are up. Thank you, Bio Reconstruct, for the photos. I know you're not watching this, but if you are, the tents are up. So we have tents. I mean, they are here. This was as of April 25th, so 3 days ago. These photos were taken, or they were posted. So we see these large tents, and I'm curious. These tents look bigger than the regular ones, than the original sprung tents. For some relation, I have another photo of kind of where they are in relation to. No, I don't. I did have. There we go. Wait. Oh, okay. This is a. There we go. In relation to the other tents, so as you can see in the top right corner, you see our two dirty old sprung tents. They need to clean those. They need to power wash those sprung tents, my friends, because that's rough. You can tell, especially by the brand new shiny white tent, and then that big sort of L-shaped building on the left is Parade Warehouse 2, which. Again, I don't think we're going to be getting this year because of the parade. And then over here on the right is Men in Black. So what Darkest Steel got them believing in the tents. It got me believing in the tents, man. I honestly, Darkest Steel, I there's never a day where I don't think about that house. Also, there's some comments on Quiet Place. Suspense traps and other characters making noise. I think that it'll definitely be very Sonic. And day one. Yeah, I think day one, we'll have to see what that movie is. That'll be one of those movies that I probably wouldn't, I don't know if I would watch unless it was coming to Horror Nights, which sometimes that's great. I love when sometimes that puts me on to new stuff that I wouldn't have never really watched or wouldn't have liked as much, like the Chucky show, for example. Yeah, these tents are big. Compared to those sprung tents, they're slightly bigger. I say slightly. They're quite a bit bigger, but how are they going to put houses here in 4 months? I mean, because we are 4 months and 2 days away from Horror Nights. So we don't have a whole lot of time, considering that, typically these houses are in construction for a long time beforehand. And depends. It definitely depends. I know they did mention on the tour when they start construction. I want to say the Darkest Deal last year was one of the first houses they started building, according to the tour, that they actually started putting together. So I don't know. Very curious. Also, I always laugh at that. It's such a weird shaped building because it's literally just like, and for those who don't know, obviously the haunted houses, or not obviously, I'm not going to say that because if it was obvious, you would know. The haunted houses only take up a half of these parade buildings typically. Like they only use half of this, what I'm guessing is this main sort of square section for haunted houses. So they don't use the whole thing, which makes it even crazier because these things seem so big and they only use half of that building. So yeah, this has always been such a weird L-shaped building. It's always so weird to look at from the air. A lot of HHN IPs I've watched with my boyfriend. He loves Cabin in the Woods and House of a Thousand Corpses. I like House of a Thousand Corpses. I think it has one of the best, if not the best, introduction to a horror character with Captain Spaulding. That first like 10 minutes of the movie is gold. The rest of the movie has its moments, but that first 10 minutes where the guys come in and break into his store, absolutely incredible. I love that. I love that scene so much. Also, Jack would conflict with Art, but obviously he's a dope clown. I don't think I'm someone I'm not really in the camp of Terrifier coming to the event anytime soon, but stranger things have happened. But okay, let's go back to the map, because we do have to talk about the tents. Now that y'all have seen the tents, and I can pull them back up if anybody wants to see them again. But let's talk about the houses. So we have tent 3 and tent 4 entering here where Dr. Oddfellow's house entered last year. In the sort of gate between Nightmare Fuel or Fear Factor and Men in Black. So the first one we have here is a popcorn symbol. Now, popcorn can be associated with a lot of things. This doesn't have an IP symbol. I should have mentioned this before for those who are new to the speculation maps or speculation maps in general, but this one specifically. all of the IPs seem to have these movie symbols. You see it with 22, 23B, 24A, Tent 4. We'll talk about that in a second. But you see that with those sort of IPs, right? But Tent 3 doesn't have a symbol. It's just this popcorn, right? So looks to be an original. Now we have a few different options. I know y'all are already going crazy in the comments, in the chat. The director and the usher are original movie characters. Don't think they're going to bring back those characters. HR Blood and Guts is another character that has a history with Halloween Horror Nights. He's sort of an overlooked icon, I would think, icon like adjacent. I don't know if he's technically considered an icon within the canon. I don't think he is, but he's sort of an adjacent character because he is sort of an icon of Horror Nights, a memorable character. Could be an icon in the years to come. And so HR Blood and Guts maybe. But the big one that everyone's talking about, Slaughter Sinema 2. What do we think about Slaughter Sinema 2? I have a bunch of people here putting Slaughter Sinema 2. Man, I would love Slaughter Sinema 2. I would love a Slaughter Sinema sequel. And let's add HR Blood and Guts in there. HR Blood and Guts hosts Slaughter Sinema 2. 8 to 10 new movies. I think they had 10. Well, technically, I think 9, but like 10 officially, but 9 real scenes. They can test out future concepts. Absolutely. That's part of the big deal about Slaughter Sinema is that you can test out new ideas. I feel like they've gotten quite a few original houses out of Slaughter Sinema. I mean, look at Yeti. We've talked about Yeti. Yeti came from Slaughter Sinema originally. I'd say a little bit of Wicked Growth also came from Slaughter Sinema. It came from Twisted Tradition mostly, but also a little bit of Slaughter Sinema with Pumpkin Guts. We've seen some of the same characters and also like some of the same sort of ephemera. Of course, the Usher scene in Icons Captured had a lot of Slaughter Sinema references. They love to put Slaughter Sinema everywhere. I said it in my first video. In my first video for the season when I predicted of houses that I think could come, I said Slaughter Sinema sequel. And I'm hoping that is true, just because I think this is going to be the first. It'll be like the first time sort of revisiting this idea post the original Slaughter Cinema. I wonder how it would be. I wonder if it would be like this, like testing out ideas, or whatnot. But I do think that they could be doing this for that reason. I think they could be having this as a way, because they've kind of, I don't want to say they've run them dry, but they have done a lot of these characters since. So yeah, Colby's saying, still think we're getting Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, Colby, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street is coming. I think that it is such a complicated IP with licensing. If they were to pull it off, it would be, I think, one of the biggest things for this event, especially this year. I think it would definitely be the biggest IP of this event. But I don't see them. I see them really playing IPs close to the chest, with the Quiet Place being the big risk of the year. Because we see Ghostbusters. Okay, they've done Ghostbusters before, and they have the new movie. Universal Monsters. They've done Universal Monsters before. It's one that it's a go-to. I don't see them necessarily going with Freddy this year, unfortunately. I would love for them to do Freddy. I think a lot more people would love it even more than me. I'm not the biggest Freddy fan, but I would be excited to see it, but I don't think that it is happening, unfortunately. Just like Creature, I think Creature, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Nightmare on Elm Street, I think have left the building, at least for right now. Maybe later. Maybe at another time they could come back, but I do think I think that that's where that's headed, but that's just me. Also Silence of the Lambs. I do think that I don't think it is wrong. I think that I want to say I think it was for 30. I think Silence of the Lambs was rumored pretty hard, but yeah, I think A Quiet Place will be our silent house. Because I think that's where all sides are pointing. A lot of wishful thinking, inquiring on the IP, but it fell through the negotiation table. Ghostbusters Quiet Place. Insidious Red Door is a high likelihood. Okay, let's talk about Insidious. This lantern here. A lot of people, of course, are talking about Bray Wyatt. I know y'all talked about it earlier in the stream. But myself, along with many others, think this is going to be Insidious because we did have. I keep going back to that post in January of Blumhouse saying, let's go to Halloween Horror Nights. I think that Blumhouse has to be at this event somewhere. And I think Insidious will be a great IP for them to do. This is just indicating a solo Insidious house, not a Horrors of Blumhouse, Insidious, and somebody else. Just an Insidious deal, which, I mean, will be the first time we've seen, it, especially solo, Insidious in almost 10 years was the last time. In 2015, we got Insidious at 25. So wouldn't be surprised if we see it again, because that is also Blumhouse, Universal. Again, it's another one's playing very close to the chest. It's not very, I think, expensive. I don't feel like it would be as expensive, as difficult. They already kind of have access to it, so I think it would be something that definitely they have a lot easier connection to. And a lot of people love Insidious. I mean, I think it will be the scariest house in this lineup. I think it has potential to be the scariest house. If this was the lineup we were getting, based on what I'm saying, Insidious, I think, could be the scariest one here. Because Colby, you're saying when they did it, I never saw the original one, but I mean, I've seen videos, and it looks great. I don't know. They didn't do Insidious after this, I don't think. I think that was the only time they did Insidious in Orlando. I know they've done it in Hollywood before. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think that Insidious has only been at Orlando's event once. Let me see. I'm actually going to look this up. Insidious HHN Orlando. Because I don't know if it was featured in the Horrors of Blumhouse in that context. Or if it's okay. It was in the Horrors of Blumhouse during 27. Okay, so it was there. I just wanted to, okay. Horrors of Insidious was a part of it. So okay, I figured, I was thinking, I thought it was, but it was Insidious, Sinister, The Purge. Yeah, I think that was the first Horrors of Blumhouse, because it was a three-way house. Okay. But the only time they've done it individually, and even in 2017, that was still almost, that's still like 7 years ago. So that's still quite a while since we've seen Insidious. But what do we think about Insidious? What do we think about Insidious coming to the event? I'm gonna let y'all deliberate over that. I got a message here. I'm just looking to see. Okay, sorry. Just got a message from Mr. Losh TV. Shout out to Losh. Someone say tent 1 could be Pandora's box. We'll jump to tent 1 in a second. I do want to talk about tent 2 first, because if y'all know me, this tent, the second tent is something interesting. Redface team are gonna have people peeing. I remember when Negan and Insidious were rumored for last year, and everyone was thinking, like, imagine going through Megan and being like, oh, Megan, it's fun, and then they go straight into Insidious and it's just hell. Like imagine. Because with this, at least you're kind of going in expecting it to be like, okay, this is gonna be scary. Like this is actually gonna be a scary house. They'll definitely do the latest installment. Because I don't know. Honestly, I don't even remember if I saw the latest one. I'm not, like, the thing is with some of these franchises, like, I'm not a huge fan of all these franchises. I have seen Insidious. I remember seeing the first couple, but I don't know if I've seen all of them. I know I definitely saw the first one, because the first one's one of the best, I think, in recent years. It'd be interesting to see them do an IP in a tent. Okay, Stan Lee, so I will say this, and I should have said this before. For those who don't know, not everything's confirmed. Like, obviously, nothing's confirmed. We don't have any announcements yet. But locations can change. So as we saw on the last map, we had a quiet place in a tent. Now it's in a soundstage. And we, our unknown original was in a tent. Now it's in Fast and Furious. Like, it definitely moves around. It definitely moves around the map. Like, things change. So we could be seeing Insidious in a tent. Last time it was in a tent. Last time both times it was in a tent. So it wouldn't be surprising to put it in a tent. And I think if they were, and they have done IPs in tents before, not in the new tents, obviously, because they're new, but they've done IPs in tents as recently as 2017, 2016, they did Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a tent. I mean, like a sprung tent, not Men in Black. Because Men in Black has had IPs up until 2019 with House of a Thousand Corpses. But I think House of a Thousand Corpses was an MIB tent. I'm thinking in the sprung tents, I think 2016, I know they had Texas Chainsaw there. But 2017, it was Hive, which was meant to be an IP, but leave that as it is. Hive, and then one other one. Horrors of Blumhouse, I believe, was in the Men in Black the first time, or was it? Or was Horrors of Blumhouse in a sprung tent? Horrors of Blumhouse was in the MIB tent. What was in a sprung tent that year? It was Hive, and what else? Scarecrow. Like, why did I forget Scarecrow? Scarecrow. Come on, I need to have my HHN card taken away. But yes, Scarecrow and Hive, and then 2016 was the last time they put it in a sprung tent. They put an IP house in a sprung tent. So they have done them before. It's just been a while. But I mean, putting an IP house in one of these new tents would be a great way to get people to go back there and see them. Would be a great way to get people in the back of the park. I've always said the smartest way for them to do it was kind of how they did it last year, in order to get people, because you don't want to put all your IPs in one corner. You don't want to put all your IPs in one section of the park, because then, like, you're going to have everyone in that one corner. Like, granted, people will go to the back, but you have all the main IPs in the front. Like last year, you had Exorcist in the front, you had Stranger Things in the front, you had Chucky in the middle in Fast and Furious, you had Monsters, Last of Us, Monsters and Last of Us in the other corner. So it's kind of like bing, bing, bing. And then you had the Icon House back there too. So you had like kind of like a path. Speaking of paths, we're going to be walking, y'all. These sprung tents are far away, as you saw from that picture. They're no joke this year. I mean, you thought it was bad last year. Pack your sneakers, pack your insoles, pack whatever you need, because it's going to be rough walking to these sprung tents and back. Pack some like extra socks, especially when it rains. Oh yeah. So let's hop over. I know there's been talk about the first tent. So let's go to tent 1 and then we'll go to tent 2. We'll close out with tent 2 before we go to Hollywood. Let's talk about tent 1 in this sort of museum image. So we had here before we had before the Minotaur, right? Minotaur character. So we thought, Greek mythology will be the theme. Maybe Poseidon's Fury, maybe. But now we're seeing this being a museum theme maze with the Eye of Anubis in the center. For those who can't really see, that's what that is. That in the picture, it is the Eye of Anubis. I'm very proud of myself that I knew that without having to look it up. Well, I looked it up to check myself, but I was correct the first time. So a mummies, but original mummies. And I know a lot of people have their thoughts on this. And I want y'all to all let me know in the comments. What do y'all think? Do we want to see another mummy house, an original mummy house, or an original Egyptian mythology? Maybe not mummies per se, but Egyptian mythology overall. Do we want to see that? Because I know for me, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I like the museum theme. I wish we were still with Greek mythology. I think that still could happen, obviously. Maybe it's mythologies of the world, although I don't know why they would do that. I feel like that would kind of be all over the place, but I will be down for the museum theme. I like the idea of the museum theme. I like this. I'm worried this is going to be similar to Legends Collide. For me, I never got to see Legends Collide, so I kind of like that. But I think they could definitely do a lot more. Like, I would love to see paintings come to life. I would like to see, like, I'm thinking of that scene in The Weeknd where the wallpaper came out and jumped out at you. Like, imagine if we got to do something like that in a museum haunted house, or statues like being in fixed poses, like doing kind of what they do in like houses like Gothic or whatever, graveyard games. Like, let's try something like that with the museum setting. Lots of great possibilities. Or maybe just do Night of the Museum. Let's just do Night of the Museum. Let's have a T-Rex chase you around. Or I guess that would just be Jurassic Park. But anyway, yeah, let's have Robin Williams, Teddy Roosevelt come out. Let's do a Owen Wilson jump scare. Also, Mad TV parody. Which Mad TV parody, Kim Dog? I don't know if I saw that or not. If you like Midsommar, you'll love Lords of Misrule on Hulu. I'll check it out. I like Midsommar. I like the sort of theme. I like the aesthetic. I really like sort of A24 horror films. Although I'm not going to be the guy to be like, that's an A24. Like, it's I believe Ari Aster did that, and I love Ari Aster's work. So I think it's really cool. So yeah, I'll check that out. But yeah, museum, mummies, maybe Egyptian theme could be really cool. Could be interesting. Although I would worry about this. Like, I really would love this house to be inventive. If they were to do this, it would be so easy for it to be scenes and less scares. I think if you did it to where you had some scenes, like, right, you have like some like art pieces and stuff, and then it ends up like becoming scary as well. But what if it's a museum of ancient gods from different mythologies? Now, that's a great question. I think that could be cool as well. Ancient figures, like if you like going back to the Minotaur, maybe the Minotaur has a place in this. Maybe have Anubis. Maybe even bring back Anubis from what do you call that? Legends Collide, the Anubis character they had in the house, and expand on that. Use the same costume. I think that could be really cool, like having a few of these different gods and different like mythical creatures or mythical figures, I should say, of different mythologies from around the world. Yeah, maybe do like a Norse section. Yeah, Egyptian, Greek. We had a Viking scare zone in the past. It's one of those scare zones that I would love to see as a haunted house. So maybe do some Vikings, do some, Greek and Roman gods. Like, yes, I'd be all over this. I actually like this idea a lot more than just Egypt, where we can do like, you're sort of just traveling through a creepy, haunted, museum with different characters coming to life. I think that would be really, really interesting, really cool. And it could be something I feel like only Horror Nights could pull off in the way I'm imagining it. And I don't like that because this is speculation. I hate like getting involved in my head and things, but I can't help it. I'm like imagining this and being like, oh, hey, like, oh, this would be so cool. But what do y'all think about Egyptian or mythology-based museum house? I like this. I like this idea a lot. Don't let speculation. Yeah, exactly. Don't let speculation be expectations. This is just me and like y'all are who are in here and myself thinking about what could be, right? It's not something I'm going to go in here, and this could totally not even be true. Like, right? This could totally be something else. This could be a Chucky 2. If you never know. Although a Chucky museum, Chucky going crazy in a museum could be interesting. Anyway. Let's hop over to Tent 2, and then we'll go over to Hollywood because there's some interesting stuff over there, as I mentioned before. And we have the black and white symbol, but it's not a skull this time. It is a house, which makes me very curious. I know there was talk about this before being possibly Blumhouse, the horrors of Blumhouse. For one, this isn't really I feel like they would use the Blumhouse symbol because we see that in the Hollywood map. And I think the sort of the black and white is indicating this is related to that skull from before. So you're saying 1950s. So that could be interesting, like a 1950s themed, like black and white. I think regardless of what this is, we're going to be seeing that black and white be a theme, right? Like I think that regardless of what we're seeing here, but I do think because we had the tribute to terror and the what do you call it? The Borchester sort of false idols. Maybe they're going to try that again and maybe expand on that, or maybe they're just going to, as this comment mentions, use this sort of tech to create a new story, which I'd be all about that. I wouldn't be mad at them take, like, even if it doesn't have nothing to do with Boris Schuster or False Idols. I just love the atmosphere of being in that room and seeing like the sort of like the shading and the shadows and the projections and all that stuff. I loved that aspect of it. So I think this could be something we haven't seen before. This could be something, because they did a black and white house before with the House of Horrors, but it was like monsters, right? It wasn't like them doing something new and inventive necessarily with it, or like really trying to break new ground. So maybe this is some distorted haunted house that is black and white. Maybe like, I would love if they were to do like a House of the Future. I liked that idea from Bugs, like the House of the Future, like from the 1950s, as you mentioned, but I feel like they didn't lean as far into that as I think they could have and they should have, personally. I think because you kind of lose that as you go through. Although I really loved Bugs Eaten Alive. It was one of my favorite houses that year. I love the campiness. I think that is a great example of camp at Halloween Horror Nights, is Bugs Eaten Alive. But I wonder if this does have any tie to Boris Schuster. Maybe this could be the Legendary Truth Manor, because the Legendary Truth owns a property and we've never really seen that happen. So curious as to what that could be. And yeah. So let's move on. HHN Addiction, thank you for dropping this in the comments. Amazon Cryptids original. I'm guessing that means like Amazon Cryptids original. Female Monsters, Ghostbusters, Quiet Place, Major Suites, Slaughter Cinema 2, Insidious, Blumhouse, Egyptian Museum, and then whatever we get for 10-2. Does this lineup get you hyped? I'm going to put that out for everyone. For me, it does. The originals do. The originals have always had me hyped. And I like that this is a heavy original year. I mean, last year, I'm going to say this, I loved 3 of the originals with all my heart. Dueling Dragons, Oddfellow, Darkest Steel. Those are my 3 favorite houses of that year. Darkest Steel is my favorite house that I've ever done, right, at Halloween Horror Nights. Small list, but it is my favorite. And so I love originals. You all know this. I've done videos on how much I love original storytelling at Halloween Horror Nights. 2 of the originals I think were just okay. I think that it was I won't say just okay. I did really like Yeti and Blood Moon for different reasons, but they weren't my favorite, right? The year before, we have a range. Bugs Eaten Alive, just off the top of my head. Really like that house. Could have been a little better, but I did like it. I like the theming a lot. I think it definitely is right for a sequel. Deadman's Pier, beautiful, gorgeous. Fiesta de Chupacabras, very overlooked, as I mentioned before. Hellblock Horror, not as bad as a lot of people wanted to say it is. Personally, I liked that house enough. Was it the best? No. Was it the worst? No, I don't think so. Spirits of the Coven, it started great. I think it did kind of have a gap in quality near the middle, but then by the end, it sort of picked it up a little bit. So it's kind of did one of these. And then Descendants of Destruction, I do not like that house. I found Descendants of Destruction extremely boring, personally. I just found it very, very forgettable. That's just me. It's my least favorite house that I've done recently. So I don't know. I just gave you all house rankings. But what I'm saying is pretty interesting years for originals recently. And I think the originals here have me intrigued. IPs are, I'm kind of here with you, Justin. I love the originals here. IPs, I'm excited for Classic Monsters. I would be excited for Ghostbusters. Quiet Place, I'm all right. Insidious, it's cool. Really, I would love Ghostbusters to come back in Classic Monsters. Those would be the 2 IPs that I'd be most interested in. But yeah. So also you mentioned that the this was originally tied into the Room with Cthulhu, but maybe it was reworked. That could explain maybe why it's not the same. Like I feel like maybe a lot of people were also speculating that, and they're like, well, we don't want to give it away, so we'll lead them maybe in a different direction because we are going in a different direction. Don't get people married to the idea of Tribute to Terror because that might not be happening, which I'd be fine. I mean, here's my thing. With all of these, I'm excited to go through 10 haunted houses, 5 scare zones, and a show. I would like more than one show, but we're getting one show, right? That's what I'm looking forward to. Anything has the potential to be good. Anything has the potential to be bad. Anything has the potential to be disappointing or impressive. So with everything, that's me. I'm just excited to go to the event, get the feel. And of course, as we get deeper into what we're actually going to see, that could be leading us into a certain direction as to like where we put our excitement at. Right now, we're just spitballing. So that's me. That's me on this. But I want to hear what y'all think. HHN Addiction, did they ever take it away? Because I feel like they've always had it. Like I feel like that little boy has always been up there. I feel like he's always been there since Horror Nights last year, since they originally put it up. Hopefully the return of A. David S. Pumpkins. Yeah. Like, I would love to see him come back. Sure. We love him. He's a national treasure. Yeah, I think they've always had him there. I don't think they took him away. Yeah, he's been up there the whole time. Every time I look, I see him up there. Because every time I'm like, he's still here. You know? He's still here. So, yeah. I don't know. But now, if they were to move it, that would be interesting. That could be a clue. But I don't think they're there yet. All right, so I think it's time, to hop over to Hollywood. I know the West Coasters are probably going to be excited about that one, but we could relate that back to Orlando. A lot of these IPs are going to be shared, but there are a couple of different IPs, so let's pop over to Hollywood. And we're going to talk about some construction as well for Mummy, H-Lot, and T-Pad. Mummy, H-Lot, and T-Pad. What's up, Zombie Chris? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. I was just talking about you. Not really. I was talking about you earlier. Zombie Chris out there, for those who haven't seen the best speculation map video I've watched in terms of like giving the information, but also kind of starting to talk about like the sort of the questions we've been talking about, like what are we excited for? What are we not excited for? What's the deal? Zombie Chris did a great video on this, so go check it out. Go check it out after the stream. It's a great video. And yeah, Hollywood. We're here in Hollywood. And we're talking about Hollywood. I think Hollywood has, on the surface, some interesting things changing. So let's talk about what we already talked about. We have the Ghostbuster symbol over in Soundstage 22. We have UBE, which is the former Walking Dead attraction, and the now just, Horror Nights space right now. That is a Quiet Place, or the sort of silent symbol, but we for the sake of this live stream, we're talking Quiet Place. The Lantern, which may or may not be Insidious, over in H-Lot 10-2, and then Female Monsters in H-Lot 10-1. So we already talked about that one. We already talked about those. Maybe we'll come back to those once we get done with the new stuff. But I do want to talk about the new stuff because there are 5 new things. So let's go back to the Parisian Courtyard. We did talk about this a little bit for those who weren't in the chat earlier. The idea of them doing possibly a dual coast original, like maybe an original that plays off one another. This time we're seeing the Parisian Courtyard, that same Latin American symbol with the flower instead of a jungle. So for those who are a little more familiar with lore, because I know there's some people in here who are familiar with sort of Hispanic folklore, what do y'all think this is? What do y'all think this has to do with? So is FNAF going to make it to Orlando? I don't think FNAF is coming at least this year. I've heard a lot of talk about them saving this for Vegas. Them using FNAF as a big sort of entry point for Vegas. Now, do I think that they'll never bring to Orlando? I don't think so, but I'm very curious because if they are using it for Vegas, that means it'll probably be an exclusive, or at least for a little while, because I feel like they would want to use that to get people over there, right? They need some big things that are not just classic monsters, the same things we see all the time, Blumhouse. They need some different stuff, to really bring, it is Blumhouse, but not like, The Purge or Insidious or the things we're going to see here in the Hollywood and Orlando, get some people over to Vegas. So that's my theory. If not, I do maybe in a future years, but not this year. I don't think it's happening. I know this is not me. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that I've seen other people say this, so it's not like I'm not coming up with this. I'm not going to take credit for that about Vegas. But FNAF may show up at Cabana Bay. I think that'd be great. I think it'd be kind of cool. Like if they did a Cabana Bay experience. I think last year they should have done stuff. I think they should have done Five Nights at Freddy's themed food. Maybe put some merch out. Let's do, because, maybe I feel like maybe in hindsight they might have been thinking, oh, we'll do it next year, so let's just not put anything out. But I think last year would have been great to sort of tie in, do what they did with Chucky, where they just kind of had Chucky in the park, photo op. They had him on Rip Ride Rocket. They had the food booth. They had some merch, right? Let's do all this, but then we don't put him in the event. Like he doesn't have a house. He doesn't have a zone. So I think that could be a great idea, doing a Five Nights at Freddy's experience. Although I hope that they don't cheap out on it. If they were to do that, let's actually recreate Freddy Fazbear Pizza. Pizza sold at Cabana Bay Diner. Yeah, like do a whole like overlay of everything. I think that'd be great. That'd be a good start for Vegas. I was wondering why I wouldn't come to Orlando. Seems like a major draw. It would be definitely a major draw. And I think that's the point. I think that they see this being a major draw, but maybe not wanting to saying, okay, well, we're having this Vegas attraction open in a couple years. Let's really perfect it. I know there's, I thought they were going to do photo ops and animatronics, but they cut a lot of things. Yeah, they did cut. So maybe this year we'll see that. Going back to this comment, I think because they do have to sort of perfect, I imagine the costumes. So I think having them at Vegas would be a better fit. And it's one of those things that would be a big draw for Vegas, big draw for us who are, fans to go to Vegas and GP to check it out. And when I mean GP, when I say GP, I mean general public, by the way. I've been saying that a few times. That's what I mean for those who don't know. Okay. So let's move. Didn't the ruins have flowers that eat people? I'm not too sure. That's why I was just curious to see if there's anything. Maybe that could be what this is. Maybe tying that into the jungle. Maybe it's like two variations of the same idea, although I think it's a little different. I know, Kima Dog, you're talking about Graveyard. I wonder if they would do, I don't know if they would do the same facade, like doing that again, because I think even Murdy was saying that I don't think there are going to be any repeats. Now, that's Murdy for one. And two, as you can see here, we do have houses they have been doing before, things like Ghostbusters and Insidious, right? It's like them doing it again. It's technically not a repeat, but I mean, that's kind of like pulling straws. Maybe we get to see a deeper dive into La Muerte, like that character. Where do they come from? What are the momias, like that scare zone? Where do they come from? Like what's the deal? Maybe. Although that is very curious. I did talk about this quite a bit in Orlando, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I do like this idea. I really like this idea of just sort of the dual coast original being something that could be having some connective tissue, more or less. But let's talk about the other original that's on this map. What do y'all think of this? I know the first thing that came to my mind is it's not happening because it's not, first of all, it's not an original, but it's also, man, I know y'all said Fallout. Man, I would love for a Fallout house. That just made me think of Fallout because it's like a Fallout shelter. But then it makes me think of like, oh, maybe they're doing their version of Fallout, because they've done that before. Both Hollywood and Orlando has done original takes on houses based on other IPs that they don't use, right? They're like Saws and Steam, kind of like a BioShock house that isn't a BioShock house, right? Or we talked about Hive being kind of like taking the remnants of a Conjuring or something of that nature and making it a house. So maybe this is like taking that idea of maybe like some kind of Fallout or like nuclear. Maybe they're kind of take on a Descendants of Destruction or something like that. Dogs of War, anything like that, I think could be what's going on here. And this is the Mummy Cube. So let me hop over and showcase some of the construction that's been happening at the Mummy Cube, because it's been busy. So this was as of April 26th. We have this facade. Now, if we're looking at the idea of a sort of post-apocalyptic or like a war ravaged or fallout shelter kind of deal, what do we think about this facade in relation to that? Does this facade look like it could indicate any other house that we've seen on the map? Anything we've talked about? Plywood. It is just plywood. It is just beginning of a facade. But we're here to break down everything. And I did want to talk about this because I do want to keep covering Hollywood and keep an eye on Hollywood. And this is what's going on with Hollywood. And a lot is happening with this facade here in the Mummy tent. So what do y'all think? What do we think in relation to, so looking back in the idea of like a fallout shelter or whatever, plywood, so far not that much progress. Yeah, it's looking like, well, because a lot of people were talking about the idea of this being a garage, this big door here being a garage, maybe for an Ecto 1. I don't think that's out of the question, like completely. But I do think that based on the way this little side piece is going, it doesn't really look like it. It looks like there's maybe could be an actor in here that comes out just based on the way it's shaped. Last year they had actors come out on the other side for Last of Us, but maybe they're going to have another actor here. So I wonder because typically, like from what I've seen at least, sometimes these houses that have facades, like they want to try to announce them early. It's not always the case, but like especially in Orlando too, like once they start doing construction progress now. Granted, it's a lot harder for you to see Orlando construction progress because it's all backstage. But with scare zones, once they start putting stuff in the streets, everybody starts going nuts, speculating, oh, what could this be? What's the theme? And last year, I felt like that was part of it. I think that they were like, the reason why they announced it so early was because they had scare zone stuff already out. And they're like, well, we got to say something because we're going to have to put up signs eventually indicating what this is. So Chris, having the actors in the facade was so awesome to see. It reminds me of something that I feel like they used to do. I feel like they used to do that a little more in Orlando from time to time, whether it's like for a scare or for like a scene, like having them sort of come out and do a little, like Last of Us was for a scene. It wasn't for a scare, but I think that's such a cool thing, and it really is like an eye-catching part of a facade. It really elevates a facade. It can elevate a facade if you have it. I'm trying to think of what the last facade that did that in Orlando was, that had a full-on scare actor in the facade. Purge, maybe it was the Purge because they had the sort of like like the Barker outside, like kind of like maybe it was the Purge, honestly, in Orlando. I'm trying to think if there's anyone since then that had, oh no, who, Graveyard Games, that was the one I was gonna say, where he would come out and do the spray paint. That's what I was thinking. Graveyard Games, when he comes out and says, dork, like, and then you go back in, and then you go into because that's a facade. I mean, you're in the graveyard and you're going in. So, yeah, I remember Graveyard Games. The Wolf Dog House has the mask maker. That's true. The wolf, our friendly Chupacabra wolf dogs. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about her. Being, sort of the telling the story as you walked in. But my point in that is that they don't do it very often. It's not something they do all the time. So it is something that I would like for them to do again. Would really like for them to go for it. I mean, Orlando would be great, but especially in Hollywood, I like that they're doing this. I like they're doing this idea. So let's go back to the map and let's talk about. Let's go back to the map and let's continue on. So we have the sort of shelter here. Not a lot of things. We can continue talking about that later, but let's go to Soundstage 15. What do we think about Soundstage 15? These sweet glasses and this little vinyl record here in the corner. Because I know what a lot of people are jumping to. I know what my mind immediately jumped to. And it made sense why Horror Night Nightmares released this on the weekend, if you catch my drift. Yeah, the Weeknd. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Weeknd. What do we think about the Weeknd? I know a lot of people. I believe we talked about the Weeknd in the last stream. The potential of the Weeknd coming back to Halloween Horror Nights, more in the terms of like a scare zone. But what about a Weeknd house in Hollywood? Now, I'm gonna start off by saying I don't know if this. I'm not sure about this one coming. I would love to see the Weeknd again. I think a lot of people would love to see the Weeknd again, but I don't know if they would do it again. Just for the fact that it was very, very soon. And I don't know how much material there would be maybe to do a full Dawn FM, because I don't know if you would want to do a new, doing like kind of a, like this, like how Singapore did it, where they did After Hours and Dawn FM mix. Maybe you were to do something like that. I don't know. Yeah, the double house, like doing it Dawn FM and After Hours together, not a bad idea. I think that this could be something really interesting. I mean, I know Singapore did it, and they went crazy on that house. The Orlando house wasn't bad. It was more of the fun houses they had that year. Good starter house for sure. I mean, it was my first house, so I mean, it was one that I obviously have a very close attachment to. There's one more album in the trilogy. So now that's interesting. Yeah, I'm curious to see, because After Hours, right? I don't like, because they usually negotiate these things years in advance, right? After Hours came out in 2020. So COVID, like literally right when COVID started. I remember when After Hours came out, because it was right when COVID began. And so 2022 was when they did it. So I'm sure they negotiated it around the time After Hours coming out, or maybe even a little before that. So I wonder if they negotiated it for saying, hey, we'll do more when the other albums come out. Maybe. Why would this? Now, I know there's a comment here. I want it here. I'm guessing you're talking about Orlando. The Weeknd does not care about Orlando. The Weeknd does not care about Orlando. Let me see if I can find the tweet. The Weeknd. The Weeknd does not care about Orlando. And you're probably wondering, hey, what do you mean? I feel like he would really like to see Orlando and care about Orlando. He literally, why? Okay, I think I'm going a little overboard with that. I don't think he doesn't like Orlando, but I think Hollywood is his. Obviously, I mean, guessing he lives in Hollywood or in that, California, like right, he's like in that area. Because I remember on the opening night of Horror Nights in Hollywood, I don't know if he was there, or at least he made like a note of it, like saying like, hey, like Halloween Horror Nights is here, and not knowing that literally Orlando had been open a whole week before that. Not a word. You know what I'm saying? So the Weeknd does not like Orlando. So no, I feel like it would just be more likely to be a Hollywood thing. I feel like it was definitely like more of the signature of Hollywood. I don't know if that's everyone's feeling, but I feel like it was definitely the signature of Hollywood's event. The main event for Hollywood. Because they have the whole like the bar and everything there. Like, yeah, we had the bar here, but it wasn't the same. Like they had the full on bar for the Weeknd and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I do think though the Weeknd coming back to Orlando, or Hollywood, not to Orlando, would be quite interesting. Doing like a Dawn FM kind of deal. And this one I'm kind of mixed on. Mixed on whether I think it actually will happen. More or less. Like I think it would work if it did happen, but I'm not sure if it actually would make it through. I wish they did a Sinister House from Blumhouse. A full Sinister House? Yeah, I don't know if they've ever done that. Not in Orlando, at least. I know I feel like they've only, if they were to do that, it would be a Hollywood thing. But yeah, I don't know if they would ever do a Sinister House, like a full only Sinister House. I don't know if the IP is that popular. Insidious for sure can carry its own, because I mean that's a huge franchise. Yes, they did do a partial Sinister in 2017 in that Horrors of Blumhouse 3 set house. Yeah, Mike Pat keeps coming in with the don't forget about Horrors of Blumhouse, y'all. Yeah, Mike Pat keeps coming in here with that with the comment. Love that. I wonder if he tweeted that, or if it was just his unaware PR team. I mean, it could have been either one. Honestly, like I'm not saying that one way or the other, but I do feel like because with The Last of Us, right? You had Neil Druckmann came to Orlando, right? He was they did walkthroughs of the house, and it was like very much Orlando was involved. Like, yes, Hollywood, but also Orlando was involved. And I mean, it's not unusual to see celebrities flock to Hollywood's event because it's a lot closer. When people think of Halloween Horror Nights and that side, right, they're thinking of that like Hollywood's Horror Nights, because that's what, they have like the red carpet and everybody shows up. So I'm not saying that one way or the other, but I do think that definitely more of the leaning was on Hollywood side. So I wouldn't be surprised if Hollywood got the house more. Yeah, they always do red carpet. I mean, there's always a bunch of celebrities that go to red carpet. And typically for Orlando, it might be like it's like Neil Druckmann went last year. Neil Druckmann came, and he was there. But I think that was it. And I don't remember if they did it before. The Horror Nights bloggers are the red carpet. The content creators who get invited for media. They are the celebrities of the event. Those folks get the red carpet. So yeah, the Weeknd. So let's move from the Weeknd to T-Pad. Now, T-Pad, you can kind of see in the background of some of the shots of the Mummy Q. I'm not going to pull up a picture because you can't really see. They're purposely, I think, hiding T-Pad from public view. They're noticing that people are, looking at facades. Looking at construction. So we have this pig symbol. And this has been the prevailing theory, right? Saw. I think Saw is a cool idea. I think it's relevant right now. I think it's hot. But Six Flags, Magic Mountain, they had the Saw house at Fright Fest last year, and they had it at Scream Break this year. They brought it back. That was one of, I think, the 200 houses they brought back for Scream Break, which was just a couple weeks ago. I don't know if they would do a Saw house just because I feel like they have that locked in with Six Flags. And so I don't think this is Saw. Now, the one thing that immediately brought to mind was Winnie the Pooh. No, I'm kidding. It's not Winnie the Pooh, but I like this. I like this theory. Not yet. Maybe when the Poohniverse comes together, then they'll do something. I hope not. I'm sorry. I don't want to see that at Horror Nights. I mean, whatever. But what spoke to me is this read as, let me pull it up, something that Hollywood folks are very, very, very familiar with. And for better or for worse, stop sharing my screen. That's what it spoke to me, because they had pigs in our house. I don't know that they did in Hollywood, but this is one that I think, I know y'all have had TCM a bunch of times before, but I feel like it does kind of speak to that idea of a sort of low-key IP that is a popular enough one, brings enough people in, as a sort of filler IP, and does, it's a classic, and Universal has pretty easy access to it. I mean, they've done it so many more times, but that's just me. Do y'all think that this is Texas Chainsaw? I'll go back to the map. So we can look at the symbol again. But I know you're talking about a purge mask. Which purge masks? From the new one? From one of the newer films? Because I've been rewatching the Purge series just because it's just been something. And I don't remember seeing a pig style mask. I feel like that would be one of the newer ones. Maybe. I mean, the Purge is it's on this map. We'll talk about that in a second once we get into the shows. Yeah, I mean, The Purge could be definitely. But I think it's Leatherface. I think it's Leatherface. Just because I do think like the pig is kind of like a, it's one of those things that's like, it's close enough, but it's not like too easy. Like if they just put a chainsaw, I'll be like, oh, well, it's Texas Chainsaw, right? But if it's like a pig, you know, pig, barbecue, Sawyer family, things like that. So that's my theory. That was what just immediately stuck out to me as I was watching it or looking at it. Lord of the Flies. Don't think that would happen, but I mean, I like that idea. I like houses like that. Or houses. I like when they do weird things like that. That would be interesting. For them to do something like that. But unfortunately, I think it is. I mean, it is also indicated by a movie. So I'm guessing this is a movie-based IP. Whether it's Leatherface or whether it's something else, I'm all open. I think that's cool. But I know Hollywood folks, I know it's like Michael Myers. Y'all are like, okay, enough with the Leatherface. Like, you know, like you've done Leatherface and a few times in the past decade. Like, it's okay. We can retire it. But it has been what, 3 years? Yeah, it'll be 3 years this year, last time. Horror potential? Yeah, no, definitely. It does have some horror elements in it. That's why I do think it's kind of a unique IP. I would love for them to do more book adaptations. Poe, they did Edgar Allan Poe House here in the past. Maybe they could do another slasher. Now, I think that could be what this is maybe leaning towards. Like maybe we're thinking Texas Chainsaw, but it's just a kind of a code for something else. Maybe we're thinking like, I don't know, maybe Chucky. I've heard a lot talk about maybe Chucky coming back to the event this year, or something like that. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if that was the case. Talking about the potential of another slasher coming to the event. We did have this sort of knife icon. It's not here anymore. So maybe that was replaced with this. This is sort of maybe a tease, a hint of it. I'm not sure, but yeah, like that we can keep looking into that. And if anybody else has any other suggestions of what this could be, drop them in the chat. But we'll move down to the shows. Let's talk about the two shows. So Waterworld, we have the movie symbol, and we have one of the Purge. So I think this is like the main Purge symbol. So I'm guessing this indicates Dangerous Waters coming back. Heard nothing but great things about that show from those who've seen it. I want to say I talked about it in a previous stream. I heard nothing but praise for that show. So I'm happy that it would be coming back. A lot of people love it. It kind of gives you that Slaughter World vibe. I really love what they're doing with Waterworld recently. They just did the Fall Guy pre-show. So, you know, they're really like toying around with Waterworld and keeping it relevant, keeping it fresh, and doing these different variations. So I think it's cool. It gives those stunt performers more to do. It gives, you know, the event and the park some pizzazz. So they really need to release for real. Like they need to, like, I don't know if it's just Purge music or if it's like an original, like if it's original composed, but yeah, no, I think it's a great show. I would really like that. Also, so moving up to the next show, Chemo Dog, you're talking about the Tram Tour anniversary. Maybe this show is a showcase of the best of Universal. So I'm guessing you're talking about the Globe show here within the DreamWorks Theater. Looking like this was originally looking to be maybe a Blumhouse show, and now it's like the Blumhouse experience. Maybe we're looking to see something a little bigger and more of like the Universal history of horror. Something like that, because you do have a lot of horror history between the monsters, between Alfred Hitchcock and those films. History of horror show. I think they could do that like a museum here. I know you're mentioning this. Put some of the props outside, have some characters wandering around, maybe having like Bride of Frankenstein there, or Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, maybe having Norman Bates walk around. Like, I know he's on the Terror Tram, so maybe having another character walk around, maybe doing some Blumhouse stuff, some other Universal stuff, just doing a little bit of everything, like not just having it be just one studio. I think this would be kind of cool. And then maybe show like horror movie clips as you kind of go, like maybe an extended version of, for those who have been to the horror makeup show. It like for those who've been to the horror makeup show, they do like this little montage of clips that they just show, and it's like to get the audience hype, right? So you could do like an extended version of that with some of the best horror movie moments of Universal's history, or maybe even like a little bit of park stuff. I mean, you used to have the Dracula show back in the Castle Theater, which is no longer there. You had different Universal monsters. I mean, the Beetlejuice Graveyard Review. You can incorporate some of that like park history stuff, movie history, to sort of celebrate the anniversary that way. Could be a lot of, could be really interesting. Anyway, that was just me rambling of what maybe we could see. I think that'd be really cool if it was to be what that is. I remember the V1 map showing Castle for Waterworld, but he thought it was going to be Army of Darkness. I would love for Army of Darkness to get a show. I think that would be really cool. The castle thing, from what I was hearing and what was kind of rumored around, was to be maybe like a Harold and Kumar show, and it seems like that has been dropped from the list. So I'm not surprised at all. Maybe that was something that was originally thought of, and then they just didn't follow through with it. Yeah, Kimo Dog, they have a lot of history with horror. So much. I mean, with attractions. The Castle Theater, Dracula, and Monster Show, and Battlestar Galactica. It's not really horror, but it's like sci-fi. Jaws can kind of be considered horror a little bit. Of course, The Mummy, even like the House of Horrors attraction, which was, Van Helsing and The Mummy and House of Horrors before it became The Walking Dead. Doing all that stuff, tribute to all that. So sad we lost Beetlejuice. Yeah, I would love to see them approach a show like this again, although they'll never do it. But having Beetlejuice just host a show, maybe not with the Universal monsters, maybe with some other characters, or just doing another Beetlejuice show, will be a lot of fun, because Beetlejuice is such a great character, and he's just got a great personality, of course. Okay, so let's move from here to the final thing I want to talk about on this map, and then we can sort of do our last minute talks and questions and overall thoughts. The Terror Tram being Blumhouse. So Blumhouse would be would be something that I think would be cool for a Terror Tram, although I don't think it is the best idea for a Terror Tram. Like I think Blumhouse could be really cool in them doing like all these different characters, and I'm ready for them if they were to do this to prove me wrong. Do like a Megan section, do some Black Phone, do some, Freaky or Happy Death Day or Purge or whatever. I feel like they just did a Purge Purge. What do you call this? Purge. So what do you call this? Terror Tram. A Purge one back in 2021. So maybe they're doing another one of those. Kimo Dog, are you talking about this house symbol for Terror Tram? I think this is the Blumhouse logo. So I don't know if you're talking about this, but in Orlando, they have that black and white house. Just saying. Although it's not an IP, but I would love a Psycho house. I know a lot of people are saying like, please give us a Hordes of Hitchcock. Yes, I'd be all over that. I would be all over that. That would be cool. Like I was saying, to do that black and white technology for a Psycho house would be really cool. Or Psycho section. But yeah, Blumhouse Terror Tram, I think it's a cool idea. I think there's a lot of things they could do with it. Although I'm not, it's cool. With Hollywood, I'm very much like, I think this is, I have a distance, right? It's not my event. So I'm not like, I don't really have one way or the other. I'm like, oh, this is neat. Like, this is cool. Like, Texas Chainsaw, maybe Weeknd, Fallout, Shelter, these things like, they're cool. But through the event, they have done Psycho houses, so maybe they do another one. Although, I would like to see a Psycho house. I don't know about a Terror Tram, because I feel like that would be kind of be drawing it out a little bit. And what do you do with Jordan Peele? Because he's there, and they kind of have to sandwich him in somehow. Villagers bring back Hollywood Harry, but I don't know. But he was there back in 2022. Yeah, or maybe they do a new character like they did Larry last year, and Hollywood Harry was relatively recent, so maybe they do a new IP. Although I think I don't know. I think Hollywood Harry, have it be Jason Blum. Have Jason Blum be the icon of the Terror Tram, where he comes out and says, "Hi, I'm Jason Blum, and this is the Terror Tram experience." And then they have the chainsaws go nuts. I feel like they'll have FNAF. For one of the IPs. I don't think they would do. I don't know if they would necessarily do that. Just because of. I think they would agree with you in that. I think it would be a wasted experience for them to just slap it on a Terror Tram. It would bring a lot of people to the Terror Tram, though. It would draw up the crowds with the Terror Tram for sure, because a lot of people will want to go just for that part. But yeah, I think it would be better to just do it in its own house. But yeah, so that is what we're looking at for Speculation Map 2. Almost 2 hours later. What do we think? I know we already kind of talked about it with Orlando, but now that we've looked at Hollywood, and now that let me take that away from that screen. What do we think about the map as we sort of close out this live stream? I don't want to make it too terrible. I mean, it's already like 2 hours, but I don't want to make it super long. And again, for those who watch the end, thank you. The end of any of these streams. But also, I'm going to put, again, as I mentioned before, for those who weren't here earlier, if y'all missed something and you're like, oh man, I want to talk, this is going to be on the channel. And I'm going to have timestamps. I don't know when I'm going to put the timestamps in there, but I'll put them in there probably tonight. And I'll watch back and be like, oh, okay, here's where this is. So for those who want to skip to a certain part and be like, hey, bing, 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 here it is. Okay, perfect. Tomorrow we should be getting that announcement from Universal, what's coming for summer. So that'll be a video coming soon. And because I have a really fun sort of thought process with that. It's been something I've been thinking about for a long time in relation to that. So that'll probably be coming out, if not tomorrow, later this week, because this is my finals week. So this week's going to be very busy. So if it's not this week, I'll have a more put together video later this week, or if it's not tomorrow, it'll be more put together later this week. But yeah, final thoughts. Yeah, so excited. All these things potentially to be coming out. Sensational. I have a funny bit for that, so get excited for that part. Monstros. I know there's hype for Monstros and Monsters. I want to go back to this comment. V1, maybe. Yeah. I think V1. I think V2. You're narrowing down some things. I think V2 is more of what's not there than what is there. You know, like I feel like it's more about what we are likely not to be seeing versus what we are to be seeing, if that makes any sense. Because we knocked out a lot of the big rumors, Creature, Freddy, both Freddys. Maybe Tribute to Terror is not exactly what we think it is, things like that. So I think that there are a lot of different thoughts and opinions on it. I'm thinking that it's still really early to say, but I think we are, I'm going to say this. I think we are going to get an announcement fairly soon. If we don't get it fairly soon, like maybe a little bit after the summer stuff, I don't think we're going to get one for a little while. That's just my perspective. I think at the end of this month, this upcoming month, May, it's going to be really all about summer, with maybe a little bit about HHN sprinkled in there. I think May is going to be big because I feel like we're also due for an epic announcement at the end of May. So maybe we're going to be seeing a lot of things coming in May. Yeah, not everybody's about it'll happen. All these announcements will happen mid-May. Sounds like it'll be a long time before an announcement. Maybe. I have a feeling there's one thing that I think will be true. And that is, I don't think we're going to get another map until we get something announced. One house, I think, at least, because I love this kind of speculation, but I also would want something confirmed. So I'm not because we don't get all our hopes up for everything. I mean, I know that's the nature of speculation, but I would like to have something confirmed. That was kind of the fun part about having Chucky announced so early last year, was like, Chucky was on every map because Chucky was confirmed. You know what I'm saying? So we'll have to see what happens, but I think I'm going to call it. It is almost 9 o'clock, and I know y'all probably have things to do. And I appreciate y'all hanging out with me and talking speculation. I really want to thank everyone who's in the chat. Of course, all of y'all who watch, and even if you're not chatting, that's all right. I don't, no worries. Yeah, new videos coming soon. Once we get everything sort of situated and everything slows down a little bit, at least, we'll be good. So thank you all for watching the stream. Really appreciate it. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Take care, everybody. Have a good night, good morning, good evening. Thank you for all the warm wishes on the finals. We'll be good. So anyways, thank y'all, and I will see y'all in the next video. Take care, everybody. And shoot.